In this video I show you how I cut my 3D print files if they don't fit my printer, or also to save material. For that I mostly take Meshmixer. Once the model is aligned correctly, if you don't know how to do that, check out the video in the info box. The easiest and fastest way to cut parts is the plane cut. Then Meshmixer will create a cutting plane that you can align along all three axes. I usually want to have both parts after cutting them, so you need to select keep both. After you accept, you can see nothing. So you have to click on separate shells next, and then the object browser opens where you now have two parts and the model would now fit on my printer in one go, if I would like to print it this way. One extension of the plane cut is to select a part of a statue that should be affected by the plane cut, but nothing else. For that, go to the Select tab and select the part with the brush. In this case, I only want to cut the right boot. With the area you want to cut, go to Edit and Plane Cut, and now the plane cut will only be applied in the selected area. The problem with plane cuts is that they usually create a bad looking seam if you cut organic shapes. It's much easier later to remove the seam lines if they are hidden within the shape of your model. And for that we can use the Select tool again, and select the forearm for this example. If you want to correct or delete the selection, you can use the Control or Shift key. Once you are happy with your selection, you go to Edit, Smooth Boundary. If everything worked out, you can now see the cutting line in blue. Then hit Accept and then create a face group. Now go to Edit and Generate Complex. You can see the line that was previously blue in black now. Double click on the line and it will create a surface. Hit Accept and lastly Split Complex. You now have the forearm separated from the torso. You can see a bunch of other artifacts in the object browser from the operation, which happens sometimes, but you can simply remove those. And with that you have two parts that are cut out in a way you later should have an easy time to cover up the seam lines. Now when it comes to FDM printing, cutting parts is not only beneficial when they don't fit your printer, but you can also save a lot of material. This base part would take 242 grams with 5% infill. Times 4, and that would be almost 1 kilogram of filament for the full base. If we now go into Blender and cut out the middle part by subtracting a cylinder from the base, which is not visible anyway, export that and go back into Cura to slice it, we end up with 150 grams. That's almost 40% less filament. An even greater difference with one of these 4 planet parts, where the original file would take 334 grams with 5% infill, the hollowed out and cut version needs 181 grams. I did this with only using simple plane cuts and Boolean operations. For more details about Boolean operations with Blender and Meshmixer, check my magnets video. Another example is this base, where I cut out a cube in the middle of the model to have space for a battery pack, and obviously also to save material. And additionally, I thought that sanding might be easier having the parts separated. So you see, cutting your parts is not only useful if your printer is too small, you can save material and use it as a tool to create space in your models for added features. In the next video I will show you how I hollow my parts for resin printing and what you should look out for when you hollow your models.